Alright. My name is Art and I'm an alcoholic. Thank you for that intro. I can just go sit down. Shit, that was good. I didn't know I was that good. After listening to my wife talk earlier, I think I'm pretty bad. Shit, I'm going to have to get some redemption here. She talked about shit that didn't bother me for years. She brought back stuff that used to not bother me, but I'm feeling bad about that boat motor. I got a brand new boat motor. $20,000 for a 4-stroke Yamaha Show, 250. It's beautiful on the back of that boat. She's driving that beat-up Toyota. I didn't feel like shit not one time when I was running across that lake. I ran across that lake. I didn't have no hair, but the air was blowing across my head, and I was just loving fishing, loving life, and saying, man, I wasn't thinking about her not one bit. I spent my whole life thinking that way. And you people taught me a lot about living, about thinking, about life, and I learned it all when I got here. But I didn't know what was wrong with me was wrong with me long before I ever got here. See, that same type of thinking dominated me as a child. I wanted what I wanted, and I wanted what I wanted. And no, Ricky, I never got a bicycle when I was a kid. I might have stolen a few, but I never got one. And I'm sure I could have taught that preacher how to cuss. My mouth was so filthy when I got here, my sponsor set a basket in front of me, and he says, every time you say the F word, it's going to cost you $5. I said, John, I ain't that bad. He says, yes, you are. He said, you said it 14 times tonight. I said, are y'all counting? He goes, yeah, we're counting. The whole dang group was counting how many times I say the F word. So if I slip up tonight and say the F word, it'll go $5 to the basket. I still have to pay that penalty. I never knew how bad I was till you people started teaching me all about myself. What was wrong with me, again, was wrong with me long before I ever got here. I took my last drink on June 19th, 1991. It was a few years ago, but I tell you, it seems like it was yesterday. It just seems, I swear, it seems like it was just, a guy said one time, he says, if life is good, he said, it just flies by. I mean, you just zoom, zoom, zoom. He said, now if it's bad, right, it's a slow grind, right? Life is pitiful. Isn't it pitiful when it's pitiful? The clock can't tick fast enough when it's pitiful. You ever had those kind of nights when you're sitting there in morbid reflection and you're feeling like poop and you don't want to drink, and then you want to drink and you don't know what to do, and your sponsor won't do what he wants and AA won't do what you want, and your partner, I mean, that's just on day one, right? Yeah. Day one. 25 years later, you find yourself thinking the same way. Same problem. There's nothing new. Ever since we crawled out from under a rock, we've had the same type of problems. Selfish, self-seeking, self-centered. The book describes us beautifully. I took that last drink on June 19th, 1991. I didn't know it was my last drink. Never had no intentions of quitting. I wasn't driving around thinking I got a drinking problem. I was driving around doing what I like to do, drink. First time I got drunk, I was 16 years old. I sat down at the base of a pine tree. I drank a whole case of Miller Lite. And I didn't puke it up. I said, I like this drinking stuff, right? I watched my dad drink and all my uncles drink, and I watched everybody drink, and I said, I don't want to be like them. I said, I don't want to be like them. They look like drunks. And I sat down at the base of that tree, and I drank a whole case, and I said, I like this stuff. Right? And I took off that night like a little hoodlum that I was, and I ran through the neighborhood beating up cars, slashing tires, bashing windows. I don't know about y'all, but I got happy when I got drunk. Right? Everything was good. I was no longer the poor little kid that had led a horrible life as a child. I was now somebody else. I just wasn't who I was. And Clancy talks about it changing our perception. It's the only thing in the world that we can put in the magic elixir, right? I'm okay. The problem is, I had problems with just that first buzz. I remember my first buzz. You remember your first buzz? I spent the rest of my drinking career trying to recreate, recapture, and replicate that buzz. But I had one little problem. I didn't know I had a problem. I just kept drinking and more and more and more. And on that last night, on June 19th, 1991, I was a guzzling drinker. I don't know about y'all, but I'd guzzle. So I'd buy an 8-pack, I'd turn them up, throw it out. I could drink an 8-pack in about 56 seconds, less than a minute. I could suck it down like it was nothing, man. Great effects, right? It's a heck of a rush. You drink 3 or 4 of them before you get home, you're happy with the wife, right? No problems, right? Get in the truck, let's go somewhere else. Yeah, she talked about everything. I'd eat peppermints like crazy. I didn't think she noticed, but she knew something was up. I smelled like a candy factory every time I got home, but I was happy. But I took that last drink, and I drink quarts the same way. There's a problem with drinking a quart like that. A quart is a quart. That's a lot to take in one drink. So I'm turning up a quart one day on that last day, and I got that quart turned up, one eye on the road, one eye on the quart, and it's raining, and of course I lost control of the truck, spun it off. I was a professional driver and drinker. I never wrecked the truck. I never got a DWI. I never got in trouble. On this day, though, I lost it, run it down the road into a ditch. No big deal. Buddy stopped, pulled me out. And I get home that night, and she did. She asked me that question tonight. She'd never asked me that question before. She did ask me the question about why don't you just drink one? Why would I drink one? They make them in 8-packs, right? So I always bought 8-packs. So she asked me on that particular night, she said, you think you got a problem? Of course, you got to think about that when you get asked a question like that. Anybody been asked that question by your partner, by your kids, by your mom, by your dad? Anybody that's around you say, hey, you think you got a problem? What do I always say? I mean, I don't know what you say, but I said, yeah. On that particular night, it was yes. Any other night, it would have been no. But I just wrecked the truck, so I got to say, yeah, there's something could be wrong here. So I say, yeah, there could be a problem. She goes, okay. Now, little did I know, in the little bitty paper that they ran, that little East Texas Peddler, they ran a little bitty ad, two little lines. They say that 1% of the people come to Alcoholics Anonymous by advertising. 1%, less than 1%. Very few people come by advertising. This was back in 1991. But on that particular night, she read a little line, and there was a phone number. She said, I'm going to call this number. I ain't scared. Right? I ain't never been to AA. I ain't scared of you people. I ain't scared of 4 steps and big books and spine. I've never heard any of that stuff. My dad was a drunk, and that's all I knew. I'd never heard of Alcoholics Anonymous, so I don't know what's fixing to happen. She says, I'm going to call this number. I said, call that number. I'm not worried. She calls the number, and lo and behold, this is 1991. Phones were like this, right? You know what that means if you're old. She calls them, and they answered the phone. And they said, yeah, we got a meeting Friday night. This is on Wednesday night. She goes, hey, they got a meeting Friday night. Like, okay, I don't really give a crap. Meeting, no big deal. She said, will you go? I said, yeah. So they said, be there Friday night. So Thursday night rolls around, and Thursday day comes around. I go to work that next day, like the big book describes, the real alcoholic. We get insanely drunk, and then the next day we make it to work. Make it to work. I've worked my whole life. I've never missed a day's work, never called in, never. I always made it to work. I might be drunk when I get there, but I made it to work. So I went to work the next day, got off that day, feeling a little restless, irritable, discontented, but I knew I could go a day without drinking. I can go 24 hours. Go 24 hours. So she asked me Thursday night, she said, we going to that meeting tomorrow night? Like, I ain't going to no meeting. We'll get drunk by tomorrow night. I didn't tell her that, but I knew in my head I was going to be drunk by Friday evening, for sure. She said, you said you'd go, and I said, okay. I said I'd go, we'll go. So, I don't remember a whole lot. When you're 24, 48, 36, or 72 hours sober, and you don't normally go that long, you start to feel really bad. I'm starting to detox a little bit. I'm feeling pretty crappy by Friday evening. So I get home, on my way home, and nothing on my mind but getting drunk. But I'm going to drive home. I'll pick her up, or I'll tell her goodbye, and I'll go get drunk. Like she said earlier, I would sometimes leave and disappear. Like Bill disappeared a lot, right? I disappeared a lot too. I'd come back hungover. So I get home that day, and it's different that day. I get home and I pull up in the yard, and she comes out and says, we're going to that meeting. Mom's got the kids, we're going to that meeting. And I'm thinking, looks like she's got me trapped, we're going to that meeting. So we go to that meeting, and look, I don't know if you remember your first meeting. I've been here since I got here. I've been here since I picked up the first tip. I have no stories of going in and out. I just don't have that kind of story. I can't relate. People come in and say that I came and I left and I went and I came back and 7 years in and out. I don't have any of that experience. Only by the grace of God that I did what I was told to do. I think that I'm standing here right now. Had nothing to do with me. Had everything to do with you. People needed somebody to work on it. They was working on me when I got here. Anybody here with less than 6 months? Anybody here less than 6 months? All right. I need you. Right? I need you. I need you to practice on. Right? I need people to work on. I got to have people in this program. The guy I was listening to a speaker earlier, and he talked about even the guy that was up here doing the workshop. The most important person in the brand new person. It's really important that somebody has a message. Right? New people can show up every day, all day long, but if we ain't got anything to give them, if we don't have anybody to practice on, there's nothing there. But I showed up at that first meeting, and I walked in there, and it was a birthday meeting. There was a big crowd like this. Everybody was happy, walking around, smiling, looking like they wanted to be there. I didn't know what was going on. I really didn't. I didn't know anything about not drinking. I didn't know anything about abstinence. I didn't know anything about AA. So I walk in there, and lo and behold, they're having an eating meeting, or as us rednecks say, an eating meeting. So they're having an eating meeting, and they're eating crawfish, and I'm going, beer. It's got to be beer here somewhere. They're eating crawfish. So I'm sniffing around in the kitchen looking for beer because I'm thinking they're fixing to teach me how to drink. Maybe swap brands, you know. I'm a Miller Lite guy. Maybe they're going to teach me how to drink Budweiser. Maybe they're going to teach me something here at this A&A class. But no, they weren't drinking. But they were all happy. And they were laughing, having a good time. And I didn't like any of it. I don't know about y'all, but I was anti-people. I didn't like you people. I drank alone. I didn't want to be around you. I didn't drink in social places. I drank all by myself. And when I got sober, I didn't want to hold hands with you. I didn't like all that cheesy hugging and all that shit that we do today. And now today, my wife picks about my bromances, right? All these guys I'm hugging on all the time, saying I love you. But they were doing that stuff, and I didn't like that kind of stuff. But anyway, meeting rocked on. It was strange. A guy got up and spoke. I don't know what he said. It was just like on Charlie Brown. He went blah, 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 blah. I sat over there to the right of the speaker, and I don't know what he said, but anyway, I'm ready to get out of there. I'm ready to get drunk. I don't know what you people are about, but I'm ready to go get drunk. I've been too long already. I'm ready to put some alcohol back in, and I'm ready to get out of this meeting. We got to the end of the meeting, and the guy chairing the meeting is going through the third tradition. He's giving out chips, and he had this desire chip, and he said, it's like everybody in the room knew I was new. Except for me. Everybody knew it. And he says, anybody want a desire chip to try our way of life, man? He stuck it out like his arm was about 12 foot long. He stuck it out. And I stood up like a good puppy, right? And I walked up there, and he gave me the desire chip. And everybody looks and claps, and I take that desire chip. Now, this is what's weird. Not a crier, not a God guy. No God in my life. Not at that point. Not a crier, not an emotional person. When he handed me that chip, though, I turned and looked at you people. And I don't know why I said this. I said, help me. And I shed one little old alligator tear, right? It came out. And that was probably the last time I cried for about 15 years. You know, I wasn't a very nice guy when I sobered up. But anyway, I said, help me. That was it. Didn't get a big book. Nobody talked to me. They said, be back here Monday night at 5:30. I said, okay. So she talked about it that weekend, that Saturday night. I don't remember that weekend other than our good friend got killed in a car wreck. There was a couple of them that died. It was a pretty bad deal. Kind of made it through the weekend. For some reason, I don't know. That's one of those blank spots. I think I was just kind of detoxing. The body was going through what it was going through, but my mind wasn't working. Monday, I showed up just like they told me to. And when I walked in there they were. 3 of them. 3 of the oddest looking fellows you'd ever seen. Right? None of them looked, that one was old, one was young, one was tall, one was short. I mean, they were all different sizes and shapes, and I'm just looking at them, and they're holding this big book, and I walk in, it's like they're waiting on me, right? Like they ain't had a newcomer in years, right? I didn't know. Now, I can talk about it today like it was yesterday, and I recall a lot, but it took me a while to recall. But what I know what they were doing to me was that they needed me to practice on. They needed me to save their own lives, and I didn't know that. That's why I say I need you. I need new people. I'm not. When I say new, I don't care if you're 75 years old and you can't stay sober. I need you. I need you. I need you. And that's the whole thing about this program. It's a we thing. We need each other, but I got to have people to give back to. So they were giving to me, all right. They started asking me questions. They asked me those 2 questions on page 44. I can talk about it today like I know what I'm talking about, but then I didn't know what they were talking about. And I vaguely remember them asking me the questions, but I answered yes to both questions. The first question was about, did I honestly ever try to quit drinking and found that I couldn't quit entirely? Kind of an odd question, but I was 24 years old and thought I was pretty smart. I got humbled later, right? I thought I was smart. Intelligent question. I'll give them an intelligent answer. And I said, yeah, I can remember drinking when I didn't want to drink. I can remember not wanting to drink and drinking anyway. And I gave them some good scenarios. I think I answered their question. They said, all right, next question. They said, Art, when drinking, you have a little control over the amount you take. I said, what do you mean, control? They said, can you start drinking and stop abruptly? And I said, why would I do that? What do you mean, stop abruptly? They said, we mean start and stop abruptly. I said, I've never done that. And I hadn't. I drank my whole life. I wouldn't drink if I couldn't get drunk. I wasn't wasting my time. If there wasn't enough beer in my truck, in my cooler, or in your cooler, or wherever, whatever I was doing, if there wasn't enough, I wouldn't start. Now, I never knew that characteristic of myself until I got in here. You people taught me a lot about me. I learned a lot from you about me, and I learned it from you and your drinking, and I compared it to my drinking. I said, that was me. That's the way I drank. But I didn't know that when I walked in here. I was just like anybody else that walks in. We're so bewildered. I mean, hell, we'll walk off a cliff if someone don't say, don't walk off that cliff. I mean, we're not stupid. We're just ignorant. And ignorance is not a bad thing. We just don't know what we're doing. And they guided me around and told me, and they just kept me from walking off the cliff. But they asked me those two questions. And I said, I never did not get drunk. And it kind of dawned on me. And they kept laughing. And this shit wasn't funny. And they just kept laughing and laughing. And I'm over there. By that time, I'm 4 or 5 days sober, and I am not feeling good. 24 years old, shaking like I was 100. Didn't know, why am I shaking? What's wrong with me? And they said, well, it'll go away one day. They said, maybe. It might not. What do you mean, maybe? I said, well, John over there is 55. He's still shaking. I said, well, shit, I don't want to shake till I'm 55. But they said, you'll get better. So the next thing they did for me, though, but they would say things and they would laugh, and I didn't think it was funny. I said, this shit ain't funny. I was one of them serious newcomers, right? I'm serious, right? Don't make no jokes. Don't do nothing silly. You know, don't make me mad, because I'm new. At least that's what it looked like. And they just laughed, and they loved me. They made me, and I'm trying not to cuss too much up, but they really pissed me off constantly. What they did next, though, was they took me to the front of the book. They read that paragraph. We believe, and so suggested a few years ago, that they read it. They didn't read it, they paraphrased it. And they started talking about allergy. Now, they didn't tell me that I had an allergy. They said they had an allergy. And they described alcoholic as an allergy. Alcoholism, and they described their drinking, they described not being able to stop, and I sat there and listened to all three of them tell me and convince me that they were alcoholic, and I said, you're right, all three of y'all, you're alcoholics, right? I believed them. And then really what they did was I related to what they said. I said, I got what you got. Now, I knew it from the word go. I've never doubted this program, I've never doubted you people, I've never not believed anything you said. I'm sorry, I'm just gullible. I believed you. Because look, I've seen some things in here that were remarkable, unbelievable, inexplicable, unexplainable. God, I mean, it was just crazy from the word go. I seen it. And I hadn't seen it anywhere else in my life. And so I believed you people. If you said stand on the corner on my head, I would do it because I said I'll do whatever you said. I didn't say I'll do it. I just wanted to do what you told me to do, and I wanted what you had. So they described that allergy to me, and I said, I think I got what you got. And I was convinced I was alcoholic. Now, the next thing they said was, don't leave here without a sponsor. I didn't know what a sponsor was. I was too proud to ask. I said, okay. So the meeting went on. By the end of the meeting, I knew what a sponsor was. We're figure-outers. You know, I kind of figured it out. I knew what a sponsor was. That means I need to ask somebody for help. So John B. was the biggest of the three and the oldest. And he's only sober about 6 months. I didn't know that at the time. Hell, I thought he was AA expert. Well, he was talking. 6 months sober, he's talking, and he sounded really good. We're real attractive in here. I can go into Walmart and talk to a total stranger and convince them of anything. Right? We're really good once we get sober. I'm telling you, we ought to be salesmen. I am a salesman. Imagine that. Wound up where I needed to be. But so I looked at John and I said, okay. So by the end of the meeting, I asked John to sponsor me. I said, John, will you sponsor me? He said, yes, I will. He says, take this book. He said, read the first 164 pages. If you find yourself, great. I'll take you through the steps. But if you don't, throw the book away and go back to drinking. Now John wasn't the first one to ever say that. That had been said a lot. You say that today, AA police will come get you and haul you off. Don't you tell a newcomer to go get drunk. Well, shoot, he ain't doing what I tell him to do, so why not?
That's right.
You know, it's amazing what we do in here. We get so sensitive, and the book's got that line about we're sensitive people, right? We break down and cry. Man, I swear, they were so mean to me, I thought John Smith beat me with a cane every day. Just whack, whack. Every time I turned around, he said, boy, did you get drunk last night? No. Why? You think I'm going to get drunk? He goes, hell yeah, I think you're going to get drunk. I don't think you're going to make it. I said, you know, I'll show him I'm going to make it. So there was 2 Johns. That's the first John. So John did what he could do for me. John had 6 months sobriety, and John took me through the steps to the best of his ability. Nothing like what I do today. Not even similar. Not even close. It was as adequate as it needed to be for me. There's nothing inadequate about this book, this program, what we do. The only thing inadequate sometimes is we don't do anything. You know, and I've watched people come in here and just do minimal effort, get maximum results. Right? And I see people come in here and do maximum work and get maximum results. Right? You're going to get what you put into it. And I promise you, if you don't put anything into it, I doubt you're going to get anything out of it. It's a costume, however you want to look at it. I had to work. And I did the things they told me to do. I was pretty hard-headed and didn't want to do everything they said the way they said to do it, but I couldn't dispute it either. You can't dispute it. What am I going to argue with them, right? I didn't have any other way. I wasn't scared of a 4-step. I didn't know any other way. I didn't know what to do other than what they told me to do. So I did what they said. I got what I got. And what I got was, look, the biggest miracle, anybody in here, no, you don't have to raise your hand. I'm sure somebody in here tonight is still obsessing. Somebody's still thinking about drinking. Somebody in here tonight that says, I don't know if I'm going to make it another day. I want to drink. Whether you've been 5 days sober or 10 years sober. Not sober, let's say abstinent. Let's use the right words. Not drinking. Right? But somewhere in there, you might still want to use. Put alcohol back in. Now, what I didn't know what happened to me, the biggest miracle I think that happens to all of us is when that desire to drink leaves us. They tell me 2 places in the big book and 2 steps in the 5th and the 10th step. Tells me I'm going to feel the nearness of my Creator and I'm going to start to lose this thought of drink. Then the 10th step, it tells me I'm enter the world of spirit. Next function is to grow. Bottom 84, top 85 says I'm going to wake up one day and not want to drink. Miracle. And I hear people all the time say, man, it ain't going. When's it going to go? I say, I don't know, hell, do the work. Right? I ask you a bunch of questions. You haven't done anything we ask you to do and you're wanting the results. You know, there's one person that comes in our group all the time and says, when's it going to happen? I said, it's been happening, you just can't see it. Just keep working. It's happening. So, about 6 weeks sober. I remember this day. I don't know if she does or not. About 6 weeks sober. Me and Candy get into one of our arguments, right? We're always arguing. Anybody in here in a relationship? In one, out of one, in between one. Those 3 inventories in that big book, man, that inventory relationship, I'm telling you, that's a problem. Right? We got some problems in relationships. And I've had them all my life. So we get into a big argument and I get mad and I tell myself I'm going to go get drunk. This is about 6 weeks sober. I'd already been through the steps. I'm to the best of my ability and his ability. We're working. I'm going to meetings almost every day. I'm doing everything you people tell me to do. I get mad at her and I say I'm going to get drunk. I jump my little old Mazda truck and I run up to the red light, turn left, go to the liquor store, turn right, go home. Pull up the light and I say I don't want to drink. Now, I didn't recognize and realize what had just happened to me, but I didn't want to drink. I love what Iron Mike says. Iron Mike says, I don't drink today because I don't want to drink anymore. And when I was drinking, I couldn't stop drinking because I kept getting thirsty. And I kept drinking more and more. Simple analogies. I mean, we could teach this stuff to a 6-year-old and they'd get it. And they probably wouldn't buck and fight as much as we do. Right? This is amazing. I can go into a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous and a bunch of visitors or Al-Anon can come in and sit down and they are thoroughly convinced that this program will work for you. And you're sitting there doubting it. Right? And there's an Al-Anon or a family member going, you need to be in AA. And you're sitting there doubting it. And they're confident it'll work for you. Right? And I heard that the other day. Someone said, this is... The guy was sitting beside his girlfriend and we went around the room and introduced who we were. She said, I'm such and such, I'm with him and he's an alcoholic. She was convinced he's an alcoholic and he needs Alcoholics Anonymous. She's more convinced than him. He's still drunk. You know, and it's amazing how everybody else can be so thoroughly convinced that this will work for us. Everybody sends everybody to us. Sitting in a meeting one night, lady comes in with a piece of paper, sits down. They always send the paper people to me because I ain't scared of them. I think they just don't know what they are. Let's help them figure out what they are. So I looked over there and said, oh, you in trouble? She goes, yeah. I said, what happened? She goes, well, I got caught stealing. I said, stealing? Yeah, stealing. I said, they sent you to AA? She goes, yeah. I said, damn, we're good. Right? We can even fix thieves. It's amazing you never know who's going to walk into the program. But she literally got sentenced to AA because she was stealing. Everybody has confidence in us more than we do sometimes. I mean, it's amazing. Every judge out there thinks that we can fix them. And every treatment center out there sends them to us when they get through with them. They condition them now. They'll dry them out and wring them out real good and dump them in our lap. And thank God when I got there they had something for me. And all I can tell you is I think what Ricky said, AA's making a comeback. It really is. It really is. The stuff we've been through for the last couple of years is amazing. It's amazing how everybody all of a sudden we're getting back to basics. Right? What's the basics? Well, big book, sponsor, work, steps, recovery. Wow, didn't know that was in there. All I seen was coffee, cookies, and fellowship. Right? That's good too. But that ain't enough. That ain't enough. I need more. So I went to work in this program. I started doing what you people said to do. Look, I got what I got, and that's my story. But I spent the first several years, actually about 6 or 8 years, and I tell this story. Most of you heard it, and I kind of retell it because it kind of makes a point to where I'm at today. And I don't know what you're getting while you're here, but I hope you land in somewhere where they're carrying big books. You go into my old home group, not my new one, working on it, on my new one. My old one, everybody carried a big book and everybody opened that big book. And when they read How It Works, everybody followed How It Works. And I said, why do we do that, John? John says, you need to make sure they're reading it right. Yes, sir. And lo and behold, people don't read it right. Now, I'm not going to call AA cops on them. They're not going to jail for reading it wrong. The whole point of the thing is we got big books and we don't carry them, right? Carry the big book, open the big book, follow the big book. My sponsor taught me a lot of simple things. Simple, simple, simple. It was so simple that I almost didn't want to do it. But it was simple enough to get me out of self. And he taught me and told me things. And he said things like, you don't need to talk in a meeting. I said, why? He said, you don't have nothing to share, nothing to say. He said, you know nothing. I thought I was pretty smart, pretty intelligent. I thought I had lots to share. One meeting they called on me and said, Art, would you like to share? And John goes, no, he has nothing to say. Now, what he said to me made sense when he said, look, what you need to do is you need to sit in a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. When people talk, you need to listen. He said, you need to look at their face, look into their eyes, and ask yourself one question. If they ask you for help, how would you help them? And when you answer that question, I want you to find the answer in the big book. So where would you go in the big book to help them if they ask you for help? Now, I've heard lots of sick people since I've been in here, and some of them I don't think I can help them, but I still look in the big book. So what I did was I opened my book and I started doing the things I do in my big book. And what I found was, he kind of tricked me. What I found was, I didn't know this, but for 45 minutes I didn't think about me. I thought about you. See, because every time you shared something, whether it was BS or whether it was good AA stuff, didn't matter. The point of the point of the lesson was that I listened to you. See, because for 45 minutes of my life, every day, for 5 to 7 meetings a week, for the last almost 31 years, I've listened to you people. And when I'm doing that, I'm not listening to me. It's the only way I could get out of self initially. I didn't know how. So he taught me little simple things like that, and I didn't even know I was being tricked. Right? And I tell people that today. Sit in a meeting. I tell people today, I give them a big book. I take them to the page 44. I ask them 2 questions. I go to the front of the book. I write page 30, page 86, 87, 88. I read this every day. I said, now I want you to do one more thing. Here's your new big book. Now look, I don't know what's going to happen to you, but I'm going to give you a test. This is a test for everybody. I said, when I give them a big book, I say, let's go. I want you to go to 3 to 5 meetings a week for a year. It's a long time. I said 3 to 5. I said, you don't have to do anything. Drink coffee, eat cookies, hang out, whatever you want. 3 to 5 meetings a week for a year. But what I want you to do in the back of that book is every time you see a newcomer come in, I want you to write their name down. Now you stay. You got to stay. That's the catch. You got to stay. You write their name down. Now at the end of that year, I want you to tell me who's left. What you're going to see is most all of them are going to be dead, gone, or out there. And I know that because I did it and I had 88 names in the back of my book. And to this day, all of them are dead, gone. I don't know where they're at. But in that first year, now they didn't tell me to do that stuff. It just happened that way. So I can tell you that today. And that's nothing other than trying to get you to take the action. What's the action? They told me to come all the way in, sit all the way down. Go all the way in, sit all the way down. See the guy sitting on the back row? We got to go after the guy on the back row. The one on the back row with their head down. Right? They're trying to slip out before the meeting's over. We got to grab them. Go get them by the belt loop. It's not that they need you. You need them. You need them, right? So I spent about the first 6 or 8 years in that group. Now look, this is my story. It's the way it was. John Smith sponsored everybody. John Smith. John Smith had his name on the back of his chair. John Smith's chair. Everybody in that group, small group, redneck, East Texas, rural, not many of us there. 15's a big meeting. John sponsored all the men. Barbara sponsored all the women. They each had their own chair. Right? That's the way it was. So John, and now, Art never got to sponsor anybody. I was wanting to, but nobody wanted what I had, right? They said, watch that guy. He's crazy, right? I was so crazy, I probably wasn't but about a year, maybe 18 months sober. My sponsor said, boy, you need some help. I said, John, if it ain't in that big book, I don't want it. He said, no, boy, you need some help. Serious help. He said, you need to go to a psychiatrist. I said, John, ain't nothing wrong with me. So I did what I was told. I went to a psychiatrist. Look, at that time I had a lot going on. Look, if you can get sober, work the steps, stay in the program, and still be somewhere on the verge of crazy. Okay? And I'm not talking about a little bit crazy. I'm talking about a whole lot crazy. I had so much stuff going on in my head I couldn't slow it down. Couldn't sleep, couldn't stop thinking. Was I doing everything I could do? I was doing everything I could do. But I couldn't slow the thinking down. So I got sent to a psychiatrist. Psychiatrist taught me a lot. And when I do workshops today with Steps, I reference stuff that psychiatrist told me from 1991. He had some good stuff. And he wasn't even one of us. Look, the book talks about when we deal with professionals, if we tell them the truth, or we need a good doctor, tell them the truth. We never tell the truth, right? We never tell the truth. That's why every time they do a poll on Alcoholics Anonymous, you try to figure out how many groups we got, how many of us are sober. They say, well, there's 1.7 million. It's been that way since 1997. I say, bull crap. I said, who did they ask? Right? Who did they poll? Because if you ask us, yep, I'm sober. Really? Right? Right? The guy sitting in the meeting the other night, got 30 days. No, you don't. You got about 3 minutes. Look, we'll lie to ourselves constantly. It's hard to tell the truth when we get sober. You know, but we got some thinking disorders. He sent me to a psychiatrist. Look, I started getting well. Look, this thing is designed for living. Okay? It's a program of action. It's a lifestyle. And I lived it like my life depended on it. My wife and my kids, my job, everything came secondary. The focus of my life was Alcoholics Anonymous. Center point, focus. I wrapped my family around it. I wrapped my career around it. What that got me was a better relationship with my family, a better career, a better everything. AA first. And then people go, well, the book says don't make a soul vocation. I said, quit reading crap out of the big book and trying to interpret it a different way. Look, you better, they said, you better give about as proportionately as you drank. And you know how often I thought about drinking? All the time, right? As soon as I started sobering up, I had the next drunk focused. I was honing in on it. Did you drink that way? Everybody go, yeah. Right? Or maybe you don't. I don't know. Maybe you're not one of us. Maybe you wanted tacos tonight or whatever. Maybe you're just here to visit. It's amazing. Look, I love everybody. You're all welcome. We're all inclusive. But a lot of people come in here that don't fit. They're not like us. But I promise you, if I work a couple of resentments with you, we process some inventory, we're going to look just alike. We are just alike in the selfish, self-seeking, self-centered part. What's wrong with us? So I was doing the things I was doing. I was getting what I was getting. It was happening the way it was happening. That went by. And you know, every 8 years I get a resentment. So I'm good for Lufkin for about 8 years. I'll get a resentment. I'll change home groups. I always do. Every 6 to 8 years. And lo and behold, about 6 or 8 years in, I get a resentment, get mad at my sponsor. They're letting things happen in the group I don't agree with. I was going one direction. They were going another. You know how that is in groups. You know, they're all doing it wrong. Anyway, I jumped over to another group and got even more into service work. Started doing more. But you know, I landed in another group, looked just like that other group. Had one guy that sponsored everybody, Glenn Goodwin. And he had a wife, Sandy Goodwin. She sponsored all the women. I thought that's how AA was structured, right? You had a man and woman in every group, husband and wife. They were both sober, and they sponsored everybody. Because that's what I seen for the first 16 years. That's all I seen. I did go to other groups. I did visit other groups, but those were my home groups. So about this time we hit that 07 mark Candy was talking about. Man, I'm loving Alcoholics Anonymous. I feel like I'm on top of the world, like me and God's walking hand in hand, and there's my wife, way down there in hell, right? I'm going, come on, Candy, get up here. And she's just bitching and moaning. And I finally said, she's laughing, but I said, I'm tired of your ass. I can't stand you, right? Been married 20 years, been sober 17 years. I said, I cannot stand you. And I'm telling you, I was moving out. We were fixing divorce. The only thing that kept us together that night was we sat down with the kids and we made a decision. She and I were going to recommit. I changed home groups. She restarted in Al-Anon. It changed my life. When I say changed my life, you can stay sober 16 years. Drink coffee, eat cookies, work some steps. I'm not saying that's what I did. I'm saying I did everything that I did, and I got what I got. But it's nothing like what today is. Nothing like what today is. So I changed home group, went to another group. Something changed in that group. Now at this time, I'm 17 years sober. And you know what? 17 years, and I feel like I'm in good company because I've been listening to AA for a while now. And there's a lot of people in the same boat. And I know because I'm not going to quote their name, but I hear a lot of people say the same thing. They stayed in AA for a long time and AA made them a good way of life. But they never really gave back. I ain't saying I wasn't giving. Because they said, you're going to wash ashtrays. I said, I don't smoke. They said, we didn't ask you if you smoke. Wash ashtrays. They said, you're going to make coffee. I said, I don't drink coffee. They said, you're going to make coffee. So I was doing that type of service work. But in 17 years, nobody had ever tapped me on the shoulder and said, will you help me? Nobody. Well, that's hard to believe, isn't it? Almost mathematically impossible. Now, I got lots of people that came to me and says, they would send them to me and say, go talk to Art about anger, right? Go talk to Art about not having God in your life. Go talk to Art about this. And I could tell them my war stories about how horrible I was. I couldn't drive down the highway without wanting to kill somebody, right? I'm not talking about a little bit of killing. I'm talking about bad. Stab them in the throat, drag them down the highway. Bad killing. You know, I never had no visual mild killing. It was horrible killing. Right? I had a lot of thinking problems. And I'm doing this shit at home, at work, and everywhere I go. I got a lot of problems. So I go into this group, and it's totally different in this group. It was crazy because it's a big group, like the group I'm in now. There's probably 50 or 60 people in it. Something started happening, man. I mean, I knew the book. They called me a big book thumper one night, and I got all pissed off and got resentful. Don't you call me a thumper, right? I was a big book thumper, right? I was always quoting the big book. I could sit in a meeting, talk Alcoholics Anonymous, and just bedazzle the shit out of you, right? Listen to me. I had the quippy sayings. I had all kinds of little shit written down in front of my book. I got one for that, and that's all it was. I was looking for new cliches, right? Cliche. It sounded good, but when I walked out of that room, I was crazy. Crazy. Right? For 45 minutes, I was okay, but the rest of the time, I was not okay. So I go into this group, and lo and behold, somebody did it one night, and I know a lot of people here has already heard me talk, but I tell this every time anyway. I have to. The guy asked me to help him one night. He said, will you help me? He's a big guy, about this big. He said, will you help me? And I said, yes, I will. I'm all excited now, right? I ain't never been able to help anybody. All of a sudden, I got 17 years bottled up inside of me. And y'all heard me a couple weekends ago over at the little retreat over there. I mean, when you ask me for help, you getting it with the fire hose. You're going to get it all over you, all over me, all over the room. It's going everywhere, right? Because I'm just going to explode with Alcoholics Anonymous. So this guy said, help me. Everybody was gone, just me and him. His name's James. And had couches around the room, steps on the back of the wall. And I'm telling you what, man, I literally leaped up on the back of that couch. And I put my hand up there on the first step. And I said, step 1, 2 parts. First half of the first step, physical problem. Don't drink, you won't get drunk. Second half of the first step. And man, I'm rattling this shit off. And this guy's sitting there, he's just... I think I went about 15 minutes without breathing. And I am spraying it on him, man. And he finally just says, stop. I mean, I had him to a 4th step. We're almost in the inventory already. I was fast, right? I'm telling you, the guy hit the door, not running, but walking fast. Hit the door, got in his truck and drove off. And I said, man, wrong approach. Wrong approach. First opportunity, right? Finally get a victim. And what do? Run him off. I said, all right. So really that guy ran off. But you know what? That guy came back a year later. He's still sober today. Anybody on my little text list, he's on my text list. He can't wait. And the guys down there in that group said, man, every time we're in a meeting and they ask him to share, he pulls that damn phone out and reads that, whatever that message is out of the big book. He's so proud of that little message he gets every day. He's been getting that message for May 12th, it'll be 10 straight years. He's been getting that message. He gets one every morning. I've never not gave him a message. It's not his message, it's my message. It's for me. I just share it with him. So What happened? I'm watching the clock, y'all. I will go 1 hour exactly. I'm 40 minutes in, so y'all know I got 20 more minutes. Just so you know, in case you got to go somewhere. Smart ass, total smart ass. Look, what started happening for me for the next 10 years in that group, about 9 years, people started coming to me and saying, will you help me? I said, yes, I will. And all I knew to do was go to the front of the book, answer the questions. That's all I knew. It was simple. Now, I had another big book that I used for walking people through the steps. About 7 to 10 people a year would ask me to help them. About average 7 to 10. So I was taking 7 to 10 people through the steps every year. And I wouldn't ever talk about it in a meeting, because what I figured out after about a year or two, I started looking at it, because I'd write the date and the time down. I'm a numbers guy. I write this shit down. And I started adding it up, and lo and behold, it only took about 10 or 12 hours. Now, every now and then, I'd get a real hard one that could go the distance with me. I'd say, and we'd go 10 hours straight. We'd start on a Saturday morning, we'd finish that night. Or we'd start in the afternoon, we'd go through the night till the next morning until I had to go to work. I don't sleep, I don't rest. Let's go. If you got the time, I'll give it to you. So it would take 10 or 12 hours. Now, look, we did the best we could do for what we knew how to do, and we did what we did based on the big book. I'm not saying we were good. I'm saying we did what we could do, and we were getting results. What were the results? I was staying sober. I don't know how many people stay sober off me giving them what I have. All I know is I need them to give it to so I can stay sober. I said that earlier. There's nothing inadequate. What's inadequate when we don't try? The middle part of the 12 steps is we tried to carry this message to the alcoholics. You got to have some kind of message, though. Something. So we answered the questions. We went through the book, and that grew and grew and grew and grew. And I would never talk about it in a meeting. In that group, you don't ever say you can go through steps in 10 hours. Some crusty old dude would say, boy, you'd get AA cops calling on you. Somebody would freak out and say, you're killing people. Killing them. You're just killing them with that 10 hours of sobriety. You know it takes 10 months. Really? 10 months, huh? We were doing a workshop in Louisiana one time, and the guy said, and I'll get to the workshops in a minute, he said, what's your success rate? I said, what do you mean success rate? He said, how many people do what you do, stay sober? Thought about it for a minute. I said, well, I guess 100%. He said, 100%? I said, yeah, I ain't got drunk yet. It ain't about how many people stay sober. It's about what are you doing to stay sober. Look, Bill didn't have a big book. Bill didn't have steps. Bill didn't have anything but a desire to give. He had a will to serve, and he served for 6 months. How many did he get sober? None. Because they told me I can't get you sober and I can't get you drunk. All I can do is work and serve you and keep myself. So only by the grace of God. I take the I out of it. I'm not doing it. Only by the grace of God am I standing here today. And I prayed before when I went out there. My little prayer went like this. God, let me be a vessel. Let me be a channel. Let me show somebody something to get me out of the way. Todd pulls me over to the corner over there. He says, I got to go. I said, I understand you got to go. You're going to miss a good talk. But he said, let's pray. So he grabbed my hand, and you know what he said? The same prayer. He said, let Art be a channel or a vessel, and let Art get out of the way so he could. I said, that's the same prayer I prayed. Look, God is inexplicable, unexplainable, undefinable, and miraculous. As long as I get out of the way, I can find Him, I can see Him. So that stuff started happening for me. That rolls on through that group, and here we go again. 9 years in that group, and I get a resentment. I'm this big service guy with the district in the area, and I'm the tradition guy, and all of a sudden they start violating traditions, right? Art gets all pissed off at them. Right? So we were doing some voting one day, and I was holding off some stuff. I was fighting them, trying to keep them from making a stupid decision. Of course, I thought they were making stupid decisions. Anyway, I missed one of the group conscience meetings. Don't ever miss a group conscience meeting, man. When you go, they're going to vote your shit out, right? So as soon as I missed that meeting, they made a decision. And you know what they did for me just to just chat my ass? They set a postcard up on they knew I chaired every Monday night tradition meeting. I chaired every Monday night tradition meeting for 9 years. They knew I was going to be there. So they set me a little card up right there in front of me. And when I sat down and read what it read, I said, that's it. I'm done here. I said, I can't, So, I left that group, went back to my old home group. What happened at that time was there was some miracles working. I started working with a guy. I got mad at that group, and look, everybody, don't get stuck in your home group. Okay? You'll get sick. You'll get sick of each other. Go to other groups. Look at group autonomy. Go to conventions. Go somewhere and see AA all over. And then go back and do what you can for your group, but serve. But sometimes we get sick in our home groups, and I got sick in that home group. So I started going to other home groups, and eventually I left that home group and kind of rekindled my original home group. My original home group had just about died. And I walked back into that group, and it was 3 guys sitting outside smoking every day. They never even went inside and had a meeting. So I went back to that group. So what happened then was, so this little thing with the steps started speeding up, and I talk about it. You know, I got some people years ago that said, Art, you know, you talk pretty good. We might be able to get you out there on the circuit, right? And I said, really? They go, yeah. So I sent them a couple of talks, and they called me up. We sat down, had dinner one night, and they said, you'll never make it out there at the podium. I said, really? Why? They said, because people don't want to hear about working the steps fast. Now, if you'll retell your story and leave that out, we might be able to help you. Right? These are people that are pretty famous people, right? They're those circuit people that everybody wants to hear talk. And I said, okay. So I went back, and the next time I talk, I tried. It just don't work that way. See, I can't tell somebody else's story. I got to tell my story. And my story is, I got into something that was bizarre. Guy asked me to sponsor him that already had a sponsor and already been through the steps. It seemed like he had a pretty good deal going on. He was 10 months sober. He said, will you help me? I said, yes, I will. So we started going through the steps, and we started doing, I'd never read Back to Basics. I'd never been to any workshop where they did the steps quickly. I knew that I could tell you, if you sat down with me about 10 hours later, we were going to be done. When I say done, that just means we made one cycle. You never finish. I'm just trying to get you on the bicycle, get you to pedaling. Okay? You're going to spend the rest of your life riding that bicycle. Going through the steps one time is really easy. It's not hard. It's practicing for a lifetime that we can't seem to manage to do. Right? I did my steps 18 years ago. I did an inventory. Really? You're the sickest shit in the group right now. Right? 18-year chip don't weigh any more than a 1-year chip. Right? I used to bitch and moan about the chips, and my sponsor said, shut up, boy, they're $1.78. We don't care. We'll give one to anybody. Right? We'll give chips to anybody. Who cares? So this guy asked me for help. So we started working, and somehow, and the job I had at that time, the work that I was doing, I was a training coordinator, so I wrote training procedures, I wrote process, I did stuff on the computer. That was the way my mind was. I did PowerPoint. I loved all that stuff. So I took the big book Alcoholics Anonymous in the 12 steps, and I put it into a PowerPoint presentation. They said, you can't do that. Yeah, you can. I did it. I'll show it to you. Right? The thing of it is every bit of it came out of the big book. It just flowed, and I put it down. And so me and this guy said, all right, we need to try this on somebody. Right? We need a victim. Right? So we found this first guy's name was Chris. He said, I think Chris is going to ask me to sponsor him. He said, what do I do? I said, tell him yes and stay ahead of him. So we got a hold of Big Chris. He's a big guy. Chris OD'd. October will be 2 years. Chris never made it. Brilliant guy, smart guy, could talk, had the gift of the gab. Just, I don't know, I can't explain that. It's the saddest thing in the world. Fall in love with you people and watch you die. I can't keep you sober. I can't get you sober. All I can do is show you what I do. Chris died. But we used Chris as our victim. So we walked him through the steps, took about 6 hours. It went really well. It went really well. I thought it went really well. I was impressed. Kevin was impressed. I thought that was good. Let's find another victim. So we got invited to a treatment center, and then we got invited to another treatment center, and another treatment center, and a halfway house. And in the course of 3 years, that thing caught and picked up speed. And at the end of 3 years, going into the COVID thing, we were doing 6 treatment centers a month. We took, because I kept numbers, we took 5,000 people through the steps in less than 3 years. You know, now that doesn't mean that's not impressive. That's just numbers. Just 5,000 people. That just means we presented to a lot of people. You know. Now I will tell you this. I get to travel a little bit, and I ran into a lady in Missouri. She goes, "You remember me?" I go, "No." She goes, "I went through your workshop down in Beaumont. Still doing what y'all do. I carried that up here. I'm doing it up here." So believe it or not, people do pick up on what we do if you give them what you have, and then they'll make it their own way. So that caught. Look, it took off. A lot of people are skeptical about stuff like that. And most everybody, I don't think anybody in here has been through a workshop with me. You ain't never been through it. But if I tell you I can take you through the steps in 3 hours, you're going to go, "Oh no, can't go through the steps in 3 hours." I said, "Well, yes, we can. Come on, I'll show you. We can go through steps in an hour." "Really?" "Yeah, really." Dr. Bob sat down with a guy, spent 3 or 4 hours with him. Hell, the guy went and started a group. Look, the only impossibles in here are what gets stuck in our head. And we think it's undoable. From the word go, you people convinced me that I could do anything. In my life, at work, at home. There's no fear in me. When I lost my job 2 years ago, I wasn't worried. My wife's crying. So what are we going to do? I said, I ain't worried. We're fine. Big guy's got us. We're going to be fine. I made more money the last 2 years than I made in the last 5 years. It ain't about money. It's about doing what I think's the right thing to do. And I get to make 8 or 10 meetings, sometimes 15 meetings a week. It's 15 meetings a week. Yep, 15 meetings a week. I get to spend hours and hours and hours doing what I do. So this thing with the steps, look, it's just steps. Man, it's right out of the big book. It's from the book. It's simple. And I'm not promoting it. I'm not selling it to you. I'm saying it's in there if you want to look for it. You know, we were in Colorado at a convention up there, and I ran into a bunch of people, and it was a mix, man. It was weird. They were from California, Las Vegas, one from Florida, one from overseas somewhere, and we got to talking. And they said, really? Will you take us through the steps? I said, yes, I will. We went up on the balcony up there in Colorado at Estes Park, and we went through the steps. I just happened to have some packets in my truck, right? I keep them with me everywhere I go. And it was amazing. And they said, where'd you get this from? I said, from the big book. This is people with lots of sobriety. I said, where did this come from? I said, it came from the book. I said, how did you know what order to put it in? I said, it's in the book. I said, it's in that order. Well, this thing with fear, this just don't seem to make sense. I said, it's in the book. Look, I didn't have anything to do with it. I just wrote down what was in the book. And when you laid it out, you said, holy shit, this looks easy. But you know, it's still really, really difficult. I don't think our success rate's gotten any higher. It's still 100% if you work it. The book's got some real simple math in the front, right? Most of us show up and leave and come back. And there's a high percentage of us that do this thing and get sober. But there's a high percentage of us that don't do it. Because we don't believe that it'll work. Clancy, he's got the best analogy. He says, Alcoholics Anonymous is one alcoholic working with another alcoholic to reduce his differences, to convince you to take actions that you don't believe will change your life. And that's exactly what we do. We're telling people stuff, and I get people all the time, they're sitting there and they're going, Art, I don't see it. I said, of course you can't. I said, I can. You can see it in me. I said, yes, I can. You know, and what's it look like? Well, it looks good. You're fine. Well, I still want to drink. I said, that's fine. It'll go away one day. Are you sure? I said, I guarantee you. You know, and the guy goes, well, I'm feeling like poop. I said, okay, let's go through the checklist. I said, are you praying every day? He goes, well, no, I can't pray. Okay, I got that. No pray. Are you reading any spiritual books? No, not reading any spiritual. No. Let me see. Are you meditating? Oh, no, I'm not going to meditate. No. So we're going through the checklist just like Sandy Beach says. Look, I got great news for you. You're not doing anything we tell you to do. There's a good chance you could probably recover if you'll do a little bit of what we tell you to do. Most people come in, and I'm telling you, it's something about rubbing elbows, sitting in the chairs, drinking the coffee, and you think this shit's going to work. It don't work that way. It feels good for a couple days, and then a couple weeks, and then you start to feel like crap. You go, man, this thing ain't working for me. You go back out and you come back 5 years later, and you go, well, that AA didn't work for me. Really? Now, I got to ask you a couple questions, because what were you doing that it wasn't working? And they're going to tell you, 100% of them are going to tell you they wasn't doing anything. Now, they won't want to admit that. Look, there's nothing bad about that. That's kind of the trap we get caught in. If you don't land in a pocket of enthusiasm, you're not going to land in a pocket of enthusiasm. If you walk into a group where nobody's carrying big books, nobody's doing steps, I highly doubt you're going to get into the big book and do steps, because there's no one there. And there's so much of that out there, and it's not a big deal. I just like to go disrupt those meetings, right? Carry a big book in there. I sat in a meeting in Beaumont. I went to a meeting in Beaumont for 13 months. I went every Monday night. I went to that meeting. 60 people in that meeting every Monday night. I was the only one carrying a big book. Not once in 13 months did they ever call on me to share it. I was there because I wanted to be there. I wanted to hear recovery. I wanted to hear whatever they had to say. Finally, one night a guy says, hey, looks like that big book's pretty beat up. You got some time? I said, well, I got today. You know, but it was amazing that you can go in Alcoholics Anonymous and never hear what you need to hear. Or, I don't know what you hear. All I know is I heard what I needed to hear when I got here. Today, it's remarkable. My schedule looks like this. I do things I've never done before. That lady sitting over there, best relationship in the world. Why? Because we're working together for the first time. You know, we've continued to work together. So I get mad at her. She just don't find God fast enough for me, right? I get a little ticked at her and say, hey, get up here with me and God. And she just has some doubt. And but I'm trying so hard. But you can't give the God guy away. All you can do is show him how you got there. So we started something a couple of weeks ago. This is totally foreign to me. I said, if you go to 86, 87, 88, right, there's 8 things to ask for in there if you circle them. 8. Ask or asking. If you want to know what to pray for. I used to say there was 7. Always left that one out. You know the one I always left out? It says ask your wife to join you in prayer. So we start, it's just a few weeks. This is brand new. This is only 3 weeks old. We're heading into our 3rd week, I think, 2.5 weeks. We get up every morning, we sit down, we read the 3rd step prayer together, we read the 7th step prayer together. We make one short prayer. We ask God to help us to find His will during that day. And then we do a 5-minute meditation together. I'm doing that with Al-Anon, right? She's an Al-Anon, she's another human being. We're both looking for the same thing. Look, there ain't no monopoly on God. You can find Him anywhere. He's there. But I've never found Him unless I was looking for Him. I've never been woke up in the morning and go, morning, Art, it's God. Right? How you doing this morning? Never. Now, you might. I don't know. I haven't. All I know is I wake up in the morning, my first conscious thought's page 30. I fully concede. My next conscious thought's, good morning, God. I have a conversation with that guy, and I never stop talking to him all day. I can't say enough about Alcoholics Anonymous' program. Back to my schedule. That's in the mornings. I go to work. I do the things I have to do. 6 o'clock in the evening, because we had a guy that was 75 years old that wasn't getting this program. He's old. When you're 75 years old, your mind just ain't quite like a 25-year-old. No doubt. If anybody here is over 75, you know that. You think different, right? Because you're 75 years old. So when this guy's 75 years old and 10 days sober. Let me get clear on that. So he's struggling with what we do. And he says, Art, I ain't getting it. I'm not getting it. I said, okay. I said, let's start something new for you. So from 6 to 6:30, Monday through Thursday, I sit with this guy. And we start from the title page. And I go through line by line. And I try to explain the steps to him in the big book. And we look at it. And we're all the way to step 12 now. And when we get through, we're going to start over. What happened is a bunch of other people started showing up. So now from 6 to 6:30, basically, we got a little book study, a step study going. For 30 minutes a day, 4 days a week. And then from 6:30 to 7:30, we process resentments. What's processing resentments mean? That means you've been through the steps, the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. You've written an inventory. You have an inventory. It's on paper. We're looking at it. And we're checking off resentments. And we're processing, we're sharing them together, and we're taking the actions. We're looking at 6 and 7, what it says to do once you've identified that you're self-seeking. We're going to do that 6 and 7, and we do that every day. We do the fear inventory. We do the relationship inventory. You know there's 3 inventories in the book, right? We talk about resentments, but I'm telling you, those other 2 are painfully painful, right? Fears, eat up with them. We can't wake up without being scared of something. Anxiety, worry, depression, we're eat up with fear. Relationships, my God, right? It's just amazing how relationships dominate our thinking. They're all mixed up. You tangle all 3 of those together. Anyway, we do that. I do that 4 days a week, and then I turn around and make an 8 o'clock meeting. That's my life. Weekends, I try to make a convention. I try to make a retreat. Yesterday, I went to Houston last night. I got an assembly going on. I got up this morning. I did everything as a DCM I can do until 11:30. I run out there and jump in my truck to drive 3.5 hours here. I crank my truck up, right? It's a brand new Toyota Tacoma. And I cranked it up and it goes, whoa! It's a brand new truck. I said, man, sounds like my exhaust is missing. Cut it off, crank it back up. Crawl underneath the truck. Somebody stole my catalytic converter last night. Cut it out. So I get in my truck and I drive all the way over here. Burn! It's so loud I can't even hear. I drove all the way over here. It won't hurt the truck. It just makes a lot of noise. But now tonight when I get through here, I got to drive back. Burn! All the way back to Houston because I got what I have tomorrow. I got to finish that assembly. Because you people taught me from day one. Be a GSR. Go to your district meetings. Go to your group conscience. My program is a lot more than 12 steps and just steps. It's traditions. It's concepts. It's everything. I eat, sleep, and crap Alcoholics Anonymous. What that's allowed me to be is to be a better dad, be a better husband, to be a better person just out there on the highway doing what I do. Let me tell one story, then I'm going to leave you all alone. It's 59 minutes and 20 seconds. I can't tell it in 40 seconds, but I'll go fast. So I'm sitting in a meeting one night. When I travel, I like to go to strange meetings I've never been to. Sit on the side and listen to what they talk about. So I go to this meeting out the other side of Killeen. I go to this meeting. I'm sitting there, and I look around the room, and I'm watching, I'm listening. I don't share. I just love to listen sometimes. I love going to meetings and not talking. Just listen. So there's a guy sitting on the end of the pew. He's down there. You've seen him. Hands on, head down, looking down. The whole meeting, he never looked up. Meeting's over. We get up, we close, walk out. And I go out there to catch him. He's at his car. And he's fixing to get in his car. And I talked across the top of his car, and I said, "Did you find what you were looking for?" He looks at me. I said, "Did you find what you were looking for?" And he goes, "No." So we start up a conversation. Now my wife knows when I start talking, I might not be home for hours. So on that particular night, we talked till about 10:30 at night. And what he told me was, he said, "I've been in and out of this program for 7 years." He said, "My wife just kicked me out. He's in the military. He's fixing to get kicked out of the military. The whole world's coming to an end. He'd been in this program, drinking coffee, hanging out for 7 years. Nothing ever happened." And we start talking about steps in God. And he said, "I've never heard any of this before." So I said, "You want to go through the steps?" He goes, "Yeah." Now, what he didn't know was the next night I had committed to my wife and my daughter to go to some haunted house or something, right? And I said, "Meet me at Starbucks tomorrow night." He says, "Okay." So my daughter gets a resentment at me. I said, "I'm sorry. This is a priority. I love my daughter, but this guy I needed to give him something." We sat in Starbucks and did the steps. Got on her knees, did third step prayer in Starbucks, right? That's impressive, right? In Starbucks on your knees praying, that'll get you some looks, right? See, I'm not ashamed of my God today. He doesn't bother me a bit. I'm proud of him. I love him, and he's a part of my life. So we did the steps in Starbucks, right? Now that's probably about, I have to look at his sobriety date. I sponsored the guy today. He's probably about 5 years sober. That guy took off, right? He starts sponsoring people. He's going, and he's still doing it. He's about to retire and get out of the military. He did get everything back. He did. He got the wife back. He got the kids back. We sometimes tell you won't get them back, but most of the time we do. We're pretty prosperous. And all it took that night was paying attention and trying to give something away. And look, he might not have got sober that night, but I know I needed it that night. I needed it to stay sober. I needed to show somebody how I found God and how He worked in my life. That's all I got. Thank you.
How about another hand for Art? Hey, some of us in Alcoholics Anonymous, we're fixing to change Alcoholics Anonymous.
That's right.
It ain't going to be the same old stuff you've been going to for 20, 30 years around here. Some of y'all may be skeptic of what he was talking about getting through these steps quick. I'm going to give you a quick one here. Carter over here, he's got 2 years. James here gets out of jail on a Saturday. He makes his first meeting that day. Carter gets with him the next day. His second day at his second meeting, he's doing his 4th step. How long have you been sober, James?
Next Friday will be 3 months.
Next Friday will be 3 months. His amends have been done. This don't take long at all. One more example. A guy came into our group. I said, "Meet me at the hall." He met me at the hall. I had to come to Tyler. I said, "Bring your big book." He had his big book over there, and I told him what page to turn to. On the way to Tyler, we did the 1st step. On the way back, we did the 2nd step. We got back to the hall. We got on our knees, did the 3rd step. I showed him how to do the 4th step that day. He's into his amends. He ain't here because he's working. It don't take long at all. We come in here thinking, we got to spread this out, and you hear some of this garbage in here like a step a month, or take your time. That's deadly to people like me. Anyway, Frank, I wasn't here for most of it. They tell me it was good, though. And thank you for everything you've done. And I know Lisa had something to do with it. Frank wants a couple of minutes.
I didn't my name's Frank Griffith. I'm an alcoholic. I didn't participate a lot. I got some issues going on, and mine's pretty cloudy. God will provide what we need if we perform His work well. And I know I had heard Art 5 years ago, and he spoke to me. And I know AA is the most important thing in my life. The people I run with preach it and preach it, that everything they have is because of AA. And I believe that. So I'm willing and able and happy to spend what time I have left giving back to AA. I feel blessed. And there was an old baseball player a long time ago that said, today I'm the luckiest man in the world. And that's exactly what I am. See y'all at the Tyler anniversary on June the 3rd, 4th, and 5th. We'll have another good time. Thank y'all so much.
Is there anything I'm forgetting?
We're going to Mount Holly. Down in Lufkin on April 29th and 30th. We're having our 74th anniversary. The flyer hanging on the board there. Lisa and Frank are going to be down there talking during the day. Going to feed you a couple of times. Going to be food service fellowship. Come down there and start.
All right, we'll close the usual manner. Anybody need a chip? 1 through 11 months? All right. Take us out, Randy.
This is the center of our circle.
Who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as